All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'd like to call this meeting to order for September 17th, 2019. Can I get a motion, please, that the agenda for the September 17th, 2019 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Chenard will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that the minutes of the September 3rd, 2019 regular meeting of council be adopted as presented? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor, motion carried. We have a public hearing tonight for bylaw number 2235, amending land use bylaw number 2070 regarding personal service establishment. And I'll call this public hearing open. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to this bylaw? I don't see anybody in the gallery, but we'll ask administration to come up and maybe just give us a brief overview and let us know if there's any written or verbal comments that have been submitted.
Thank you, Mayor Zahara. This is a land use bylaw textual amendment that administration is bringing forward to council. So this is regarding to amend the land use bylaw number 2070 so that it be amended by removing the words forming part of a hotel or motel after the words personal service establishment. This is a permitted use in the C3 Highway Commercial District. Personal service establishment means a development used for the provision of personal services to an individual which are related to the cleaning and repair of personal effects or of the care of appearance of the body. Typical uses include, but are not limited to, the following: hairdressers, shoe repair, dressmakers, laundry cleaning facilities, and jewelers. If you can see on the map presented in front of you, these are the areas that are affected in the town that fall under the Highway Commercial District. And so it's through the highway. And the main purpose of this district is intended to provide for a range of commercial uses to serve the traveling and local public using Highway 60. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Resick. Have we had any comments submitted at all from the public?
No, we have not.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the public hearing is open. I'll just leave it open for a few more seconds here. Don't anticipate anybody coming, but you never know. All right, we're going to close the public hearing on bylaw number 2235, amending land use bylaw number 2070 regarding personal service establishments. Moving on to reading of bylaws, can I get a motion, please, that council gives second reading to bylaw number 2235, which amends land use bylaw number 2070 by removing formal part of hotel or motel from personal service establishment being a permitted use in the C3 Highway Commercial District. Councillor Sorensen will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council give third reading to bylaw number 2235? Councillor Bevan will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Moving on to reports from administration. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve the withdrawal of $11,000 from the Eddie's Big Run Reserve to upgrade the natural trail in West Haven Park to a standard gravel trail. Councillor Byer will make that motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Chenard.
The only question I have is where's gravel and asphalt? I guess there's mixed reviews. Some people prefer the gravel, some asphalt. So it's sort of have we had any concerns from the public? Because you do hear about it. One concern I heard is where there's asphalt, they put melt and they walk dogs, it affects their feet. But on the other hand, they're saying gravel is good in the wintertime, but they hate in the summertime. So do you have any public input in that regard?
Go ahead, CEO Durga.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Chenard, yeah, so the town obviously maintains a variety of different trails, and this trail we feel at this stage is most appropriate as it connects to a more natural or gravel trail to be of that state. However, it will constructed in a way that it could be paved in the future if we felt that was necessary. For context, I would just refer back to the Trail Master Plan, where when we did the public consultation, I think one of the clear messages we got was that we needed a variety of trails because there was people who used them for different interests and different purposes. People who cycle or skateboard or rollerblade like those nice smooth paved trails. Others enjoy a more natural setting. So our intent here is to try to maintain a variety of surfaces. In this case, we feel that a gravel trail is the most appropriate application.
All right, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council increase the ATCO franchise fee percentage from 21.25% to 22.35%, which is a 1.10% increase. Councillor Sorensen will make that motion, and administration, do you want to speak to this? This has not come to committee.
Sure, thank you, yes. This is proposed to stay in line with the direction set last year by council, which is to set the rate such that it would maintain a steady revenue. And so even though the percentage changes, the amount of revenue collected is anticipated to be the same based on ATCO's projections. So administration is recommending following that same course of action as we did last year, to maintain the $523,300 of revenue. Obviously that's only forecasted, but that is the objective.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments, or concerns? Councillor Sorensen.
Through the chair to administration, I think this is an excellent proposal. I think this is the right way to do it. If we kept the same percentage, we would have to make up for that reduced revenue through taxes, and I don't think that's what our community wants. So I think this is the right course of action. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Byer.
Through the chair, I also agree that I think maintaining this revenue through this way is appropriate. However, I'm a little concerned about the long term of it. If we're at 22% now, and how many years is it going to take us to get to 35, and what kind of plan can we develop in that time to either wean ourselves off of this or become energy efficient in other ways to make up for it? That's my concern.
Thank you. Through the chair. So this last 2 years is, in my experience, the first time that there's ever been a decrease. So that's about 10 years of experience. So I would just suggest that we have not, from an administrative perspective, seen what we view as a long-term trend yet that has troubled us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the point is well made that we need to be cautious of that and aware of that possibility.
All right, Councillor Chenard.
I was just curious on this, because at the end of the day, we can charge more and they pass it on to us, the customers. But the percentage we're charging, I believe you had the information last year, how does it compare to other towns? Because I know we debated about the percentage, and it would have been nice if we brought it to committee, which we passed it out last year, but that's my only concern. If we keep going up, at the end of the day, ATCO will pay us more, but we are increasing their costs, so therefore we passed on to the customers, so we're really doing ourselves a favor.
Go ahead, see other comment.
Thank you. Yes, we don't have that list here in front of us. I can just say that there is a variety of applications of this. Some communities apply the maximum, some apply very little or none. We are generally in what I would describe as the middle range or the average range there. More information can certainly be produced as requested.
All right, Councillor Curry.
I would just like to add, I support what Councillor Byer had said, just making sure with the trend that this isn't a continuous thing, just knowing that we did make that decision to raise next year, but do support doing it because I do think as far as the revenue goes, I think it's really important with our taxes that we are separating utilities from taxes, and that our utilities and that are covered through different forms than our actual taxes. Because I think it just adds transparency. So I do like that we do that and continue the revenue there than handing it to taxes.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Well, I'll speak to this. I'm also concerned that our percentage is going to continually increase if this becomes a trend. I think having a stable revenue line here is ideal. or we should look at removing this from our bills and do it through taxation. Either way, residents are going to be paying either through this way or through the taxation method. What I would like to see here in the future is us to actually cap that amount that it would be, so we're clear and transparent to our residents that we will never go over, say, $500,000 or $550,000 in revenue through this system. I know that some people believe this is a hidden tax. We're generating revenue through this requisition, but some people don't understand that it actually goes to the municipalities. So I would argue that it's not necessarily the most transparent way because people don't necessarily look closely on their bills, that we are generating revenue. With the energy, with the one that we do with EPCOR, that goes back into electrical type projects. This goes back into general revenue, and I do have some concern with that. But for this year, I'd be happy to keep that rate at what's proposed here, so we keep that revenue at the same level as last year. But I think we need to have a longer term plan in dealing with this to ensure that we don't continually raise this fee and I would say charge residents in a way that they might not be the most transparent. So, any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hear none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve the purchase of 4 Sonim devices for the Edson Citizens on Patrol Group? Councillor Wilkinson will make that motion. We talked about it at committee. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, did you have a?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So did we figure out the actual cost of the breakdown? Because remember I was concerned about the cost of things. I'm all for them. So they cost $1,500 a unit, is that correct?
No, the $1,500 for all 4 units.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's the initial cost of the units, and then there is the monthly charge of $60 per month per unit.
Just wanted clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please, that council approve proceeding with a grant application for the Alberta Community Partnership ACP Municipal Internship Program administered through Municipal Affairs to assist in funding the employment of a land use planning intern for a 2-year term? Councillor Curry will make that motion. We did talk about it in committee. Administration, you have anything you want to add?
No, happy to address any questions, Your Worship, if there are any.
Okay, any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carried. Can I get a motion, please? Actually, before we do the motion, administration is going to be requesting a change to what's suggested here. CEO Derricott, if you want to speak to that.
Thank you. Just before there's a motion on the table, I would just like to suggest that council consider a $40,000 amount instead of the $20,000 amount. As this item was initially prepared and submitted, it was on the basis of what I would say a very pared down sanding program compared to what we may have experienced in typical years. And we feel that $40,000 would allow us to proceed with what we have seen or experienced in recent years in terms of sanding. What we don't want to do is end up in a situation where we don't feel we have the materials to appropriately address the issue. Any materials that are unused are obviously usable in future seasons, so there's no risk or loss of stockpiling and holding on to any additional material. However, the material is very difficult to acquire once the season has progressed. So we'd much rather be in a position of having a little bit too much than not enough.
All right.
Through the chair to administration.
We don't have a motion on the floor
Okay,
yet, so
okay.
I'll call the question. Can I get a motion, please, that council increase the parts and supplies in the transportation department budget by $40,000 for the purchase of winter gravel, salt, sand mixture stock with monies from the snow removal reserve? Councillor Byron will make that motion. Go ahead, Councillor Wilkinson.
To the chair. I guess why wasn't this budgeted for before? Like, this is double the amount now.
Sure, go
Thank
ahead.
you. I would allow Martino to address that, Mr. Behagi.
Mr. Chairman, through to Councillor Wilkinson. With regards to our current stockpile, we have about a third of it left. Last year, We had an extensive purchase of sand and salt, close to $50,000. The expectation was that we would probably be able to be fine with that during the budget type periods. However, we had a certain type of winter where, although the snow may not have been excessive and might have came in different waves, but we did have a lot of freezing rain. So there was a lot of use of that. We had 2 sanders out regularly, spreading in even all into residential areas and so on. So it was a very high level of coverage that we provided throughout that year, but we did reduce our stocks quite significantly. And as you know, the winter sometimes starts in October, but it can often start to really hit us whenever our budget's already set. So.
All right. Councillor Sharp?
Where we have salt and salt mixture, I thought we were gonna slowly get away from the amount of salt we use. Are we using more sand and less salt with like the snow dump and stuff? So that's where I'm concerned. I don't mind spending the 40,000, I fully understand what you're talking about. But are we trying to get away from salt and use more sand?
I know that we have, Mr. Chairman, through to Councillor Chouinard, I know that we've had those conversations, especially with how we're planning to deal with the snow dump here under some new information. I'm not sure about exactly what the mixture changes would be. I can't provide you that detail at this time.
Right, because that was, blame me on that. That was my concern, because studies have shown, I mean, I totally agree, the public wants to, salt is more expensive than sand, but salt is more harm than regular sand, so I'm just wondering if we are moving or exploring that option, putting more sand or even kind of a different kind of actual grit to the sand rather than salt with our snow dump expense coming. That may help us a bit, I guess, I don't know. Looking outside the box.
All right, thank you. Councillor Byron?
Through the chair to Mr. Verhage. So this 40,000 increase is for the 2019-2020 season, winter season. And then when we do our budgets this October for 2020, will that include 2020-2021? So we don't have this type of situation again?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, through to Councillor Byers. We commonly are trying to budget for that next season, which does make it a bit difficult, because in the summer and fall of 2018, we were trying to figure out what kind of snow we'd get at the start of 2019. The seasons can be quite different. So again, yes, we've been budgeting this year for both this winter and next winter, fall, January, February, March, April. So we are, however, budgeting for reductions in materials due to, necessity.
If I may, I would just add that, so depending on, as we move a little bit more into budget time, it may have a moderate effect on what we would budget. That's all based on, again, usage and projections and that type of thing. But at the consideration of the 2020 budget, I would suggest that you will see a normal dynamic in terms of trying to prepare ourselves with these types of materials.
Go ahead, Councillor Byron.
Through the chair to administration. With the new snow dump facility or setup, or how we have to manage that, is there any way to recover any of the materials from year to year?
Mr. Chair, through to Councillor Byron. No, I'm not sure how it would. I don't believe that it is necessarily economical for us to go and sift the road material.
I think I would add to that as well. I believe that we are prohibited from reapplying that to streets anyway. There are some very limited usage once you've recovered it from streets, because there can be contamination of hydrocarbons, oils, and those types of things. And so that is part of the reason why, as Mr. Verhage suggested, there's just not really an economy to it there.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? I support this. We never know what we're going to get. We could end up with, I've been here where we've had a rainstorm in October that turned into freezing conditions, where we had half of Western Alberta sitting in Edson because they couldn't go any further. So I think it's always good to have a little bit more than not enough, and hopefully this will help us out next year when it comes to budget time, that we maybe won't need as much to purchase in the 2021 season. So fully in support. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Motion carried. Information items, we have none. Sundry council committee reports. We're going back to, I told you, September 4th. And we will start with Councillor Bevan.
Okay, what do we got here? September 11th, Councilor Wilkins and I met with the Edson Senior Transportation Society, and the meeting was actually very good. They only had 4 people there. They're the same as everybody else. They're short on volunteers and stuff like that. We had a good meeting with them, and the bus set was ran into by a local company here. They're still going through trying to get everything figured out, and the bus is back on the road, and they still got a few problems, and needs to retire his place and stuff like this and that. The trivia date is set for March 14th of 2020 at the Legion, so everybody wants to line up their teams. They said go ahead and start getting ready for that. One thing which was interesting, their zero is $50,000 on their book, so their zero says 50,000, which is a good balance to have for them, and they know what they got. And they feel within a couple of more years now they're going to have to replace one of their buses, so they'll be saving up for that. They're going to go and do the Luck of the Irish raffle again. Tickets will be going on sale fairly soon. Out of that, they make about $3,200, $3,500 for the Transportation Society. And they said that they appreciate the town paying for the insurance and the fuel on their buses, and that's a big expense for them, that we really like that. One thing that was brought up, we talked about, was over here at the medical center, and that is they have a place there we drop off the handicapped people and they're finding, because their buses are a little bit longer, people are not moving out of the way, or they're approaching on the drop-off point for them, and their bus has to sit out on the main street, and then they have to offload, and people are getting mad at them and honking because they can't get off and pull in. So I believe they're going to approach administration here and see if we cannot maybe make that area a little more bigger each side, so that they'll be able to pull in, and that people know that even if it wasn't marked handicap, if it wasn't marked as a unloading zone or something like that, so people unload and then we'll pull out, the bus will be able to pull in, and it just makes it safer for everybody coming down the highway and for them getting off the bus and stuff like that too, What else is there? They're going to be installing dash cams in their buses right now. Don has some that he's going to give to the Transportation Society, put dash cams in them so they know that anything happens in that because of the accident, that they'll have a record of what's going on and stuff like that, just to protect them, and that's what he's offered the service of that. And that was, I think, pretty much it. Maybe Councilor Wilkinson has something else to add on that afterwards or something, I can't remember. On the 11th was a chamber meeting. The summer festival went over really well. They had people saying that there was less rides this year. There was the same amount of rides this year, was just that it was spread out over a longer stretch up and down the Main Street and that, She would like to see more vendors on the street. Kathy did go up and talk to the vendors on the street and stuff like that, the businesses, and they all give her the same reason, as they just don't have the staff to maintain anything on the street. They're down to their bare bones. Some of these places only got 2 people working, some only have 1, and some are family coming in to help them out. They just don't have the staff to put the vendors on the street. They'd love to do it, but they just don't have it in that. Business Awards Gala has been booked for October the 19th, and this year they're going to put up the ticket prices by $5 to $55 and $65 for non-business people that are with the chamber and that. They've done a survey on everybody around town, everybody around the area. I think the highest was $75, and we were right on that the lowest end of $55. But they don't want to price it out of range so that people, will come to the business gala. And they're going to have a guest speaker this year. Chris Fields is a keynote speaker in that. Don't have a lot on them. I can leave this year, you can look at it. Santa Claus Parade, they're getting underway. Candy Factory Christmas is now the theme this year. So if anybody wants to put in a float, please do. delivered about 7,000 maps to different hotels, motels, and restaurants in Edson, and also to some in Hinton and that. And people are happy to get them in that. She met with the Chamber of Hinton, and they compared to us. They found one thing interesting, that when the business awards, they dressed up in a theme. Last year was the Mardi Gras theme, and everybody dressed up and decorated for that theme. So it was a little nicer, people got more into it, stuff like that. So they're gonna maybe not look at it this year, but maybe next year to look at doing something there. She continues to recruit more members. She's up and down the main street and also off the beaten path. And they do have a few more people, business people that are joining. October 10th at the Galloway Station Museum is a candidates forum. It is booked. She will be putting more information out. Doors will open at 6:30. Forum starts at 7 p.m. They had Contour Construction is now going to do the Pioneer Award for the Chamber. And what else was here? I think that was it. Yes, it is. That's my report.
All right, thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Curry.
I do not have anything to report. Thankfully, Councillor Bevan went to the chamber for me. I was out of town.
All right, Councillor Schnart.
Okay, on September 9th, we had our PAC meeting. They had to shut some of the mills down due to the roads, lack of lumber or lack of trees coming in, so it's sort of a hit and miss. They are up and operational for Edson and Hinton. We had two presentations. One was grizzly bear habitat. And the thing I found very interesting about it is where people think where all of our logging and everything going on, we're actually harming the bears. But they found bears thrive better in open areas. They eat the grass, they can get their kill, chasing deers or whatever, so where's good. And the other presentation was about trails up in towards Canada. They named the area off. And where they're doing is they want to encourage people to use the trails, but the quads and stuff were damaging it. So they applied for a grant, and FIP grant. They applied and they got $300,000 from that grant to apply towards the trails. They gave us the whole presentation, and it's like the Catamount, this whole thing. So it was very interesting on where you'd automatically think we want to chase the people out, but they're thinking totally opposite. We want the people coming in there, but they're encouraging them. By creeks and road beds, they were building bridges using some of the roads. So, you know, we had the two presentations. Okay, and then on the 10th, we had our CAL meeting. On September 11th, TransCanada. One of the highlights there is next year, they're gonna be celebrating their 50th anniversary of the opening of Highway 16. So they're gonna encourage the members on one of them. We're gonna meet with ministers, same idea, with tourism minister. The idea that we brought forward is would be very interesting that we're gonna contact all the towns along Highway 16, get all their information. So like an example in Edson, we have a Rotary Sundays that we're gonna encourage people to travel the route. The other interesting thing that I brought up, and it's wouldn't it be neat if we had 50-year-old cars? So there's a lot of car clubs right from Manitoba to there. So we're gonna contact them all, and we could possibly have like a torch instead. So instead of people want to travel the whole Yellowhead, but they could pass a torch, encourage people to have a map so we would gain by it. So when people are saying, hey, then we could advertise Edson, saying that we have a Rotary Sundays. And the other thing about I said, like our actual bike park where it opened up. So that kind of information, they're gonna have it promoted throughout the whole Highway 16 corridor. So we'll have meetings with them. So an example, 4 of us are to meet with Minister, what's that name here now? The tourism minister.
Yeah, Minister.
We're going to have set meetings to find out if we can get some money, and where we're getting by TransCanada, we're going to meet as Alberta, so we can put the pressure on the other provinces. So the goal is we can raise 100,000, we can advertise the whole route. So very interesting meeting. Other than the fact there's no number on the building, and my GPS took me right to the building, and an hour and 20 minutes later I found the building. So other than that, it was very interesting, and they're encouraging people going back to ones that were members to, the idea on this. We're gonna encourage the members. So an example, where the City of Edmonton, not their fault. I said, don't dwell on it, but Spruce Grove's the only plane. So when you're advertising the route, direct them through Highway 16A and bring them through the towns. So it was a very interesting meeting, but that's it for my, and then on September 12th, Councilor Bevins brought to, we went to White Court and we met with the Justice Minister. We had the opportunity to enjoy White Court's chamber. So we won't say how we did it, but we did enjoy their chamber. So that's
Thank
it
you.
for my report.
Councilor Wilkinson.
Yeah, I just have a question for Councillor Bernard. Have you looked into, like, when the Alaska Highway had its 50th anniversary, they had antique cars and stuff going up there, so there'd be ideas for the
That was
50th
talked
anniversary.
about from the gentleman from Vancouver, Victoria, that was
Okay.
online, but yes, the concept is there, because that's what they're gonna get working on this winter.
And that $300,000 grant, is that from the fellow that was here and talked to us?
Yes.
Okay. All right, for my report on the 4th, I was at Parkland Lodge for a walkthrough again. On the 6th, I had to go to Grand Cache, representing Evergreens Foundation at a meeting we had up there. On the 11th, we had a board meeting for Evergreens Foundation, and it was very interesting. We drove around and looked at all the, well, I guess you'd have to say real estate that we inherited when we took over Pembina's housing. There's single houses, about 7, I think, in Wildwood, and 8 or so in Evansburg, as well as like many seniors, self-contained apartments and apartment buildings. So it's an awful lot of work there right now. But we are deciding between Wildwood and Evansburg what the best location would be for the new build out there. So that was a very interesting meeting. And then on the 13th with Alberta Seniors Housing, I was on a conference call for an hour and a half. And also on the 12th there, I did meet the Justice Minister with the rest of us. So it was nice and busy.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Sorensen.
Thanks. On September 12th, I went to the Edson District Recycling Society meeting, our board meeting. A few items to mention. They are not going to have a fall toxic roundup this year due to financial constraints. They did put a grant application, or I'm not sure if it was a grant application or if it was just an application to be one of the new pilot areas for agricultural plastics. And that's a big issue with our county partners. So they would be a regional drop-off and collection facility for agricultural plastics. Take it or leave it is now charging $5, I believe, for pickups. Very few complaints, only the people that are using it for commercial purposes are complaining, but everyone else seems to find it very reasonable. Architectural clearing facility, I can't remember the name, they're still working on the name they're going to go with, but it is kind of partially open right now. They are starting to sell things. One day they made $400 in one day, so selling windows, doors, 2x4s, whatever's no longer needed in the community. Thanks.
Excellent. Councilor Burke?
On September 7th, I had an Edson Library Board Policy Committee meeting, and on the 12th, just the Justice Minister in Whitecourt on the welfare.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Can I have one more thing?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I got one thing from the chamber here was that next year they're going to request from administration and council if they can change their light up night to Friday night instead of Thursday. What they found was that if you lit up on a Thursday and that, people were coming there, you weren't necessarily going downtown. They found that it was very slow, and they thought if we went to a Friday night, then people with the children could stay out later. There's no school the next day, stuff like that, and they're just going to bounce it off you guys to see what you would feel if you could do it. They didn't want to ask this year because it's probably already set for this year, and that is something that the business people have been talking about and did bring it to the chamber's attention last Wednesday and that, so, and they were going to send you out a letter, I believe, or whatever in that too, so.
Right.
And that is it.
Thank you. We did receive some correspondence, so
Okay.
that'll be sent out to council. Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to do it this year, but something next year we can.
They didn't really ask for this year, but if it's possible, it's okay, but if not, they would happy to go with next year.
Yeah, I think our staff will arrange a meeting with them, so. September 9th, I had a community health partnership meeting at the hospital. If you recall, the health partnership is between AHS, the town of Edson, Yellowhead County, the PCN, and some other partners to deal with health issues. And one of the things that we identified as growing concern is mental health addictions and homelessness. So on September 9th, we hosted a regional or a local roundtable with different organizations in the community that deal with individuals that may be homeless or may have mental health or addictions issues. There were about 30 representatives there, and it was interesting. I think the line that stood out to me is nobody really has a mandate to deal with these issues, but it's everybody's issue. We had some really good discussion on the gaps in services within the community. We have a lot of nonprofits, churches that are doing a lot of great things in the community, but sometimes we don't know what the other hand is doing. So there's lots of information that was shared that I think was helpful for everybody. And there was a very strong desire to keep working together on this issue. One of the concerns is AHS can't really take on this initiative for the long term if we're looking at coordinating programs and services within our community, and was asked that somebody take a lead role in kind of coordinating this response and kind of be the spokesperson and be able to lobby and apply for funds and that sort of thing. So nobody put their hands up, so I suggested that the town of Edson would consider it, but we would need the support of all the organizations around the table. We would just be a coordinating body, so something for council to think about. Hopefully we'll have something come to committee before our next meeting together, so we can see where the town is comfortable in providing those kinds of resources or not. It ties into some of the discussions we had with Minister Schweitzer on September 12th, and we'll continue to work on these issues. They're all tied into rural crime issues, are tied into a lot of the things that we're facing in our community. So that's it. That's my report. Go ahead.
I have two questions, one for Councillor Bevins and one for Councillor Troy, so I'll start with Bevins. When you said the dash cams on the bus, are they considering the cameras in the bus too, like school buses have, in case something happens in the bus?
No, it was just mainly facing forward or the side, whatever, because they got hit. The guy came through the stop sign and admitted that he was texting and didn't see him, and they just still trying to settle things out with him and that. If they would have had it there, it would have been a lot better for him. So, and they find that there's his near misses with their buses because they are a little slower and that, and more bulkier. So they just Don's donated two of them to them, so they're going to put them in there, which is going to be I think very good for him.
The other one, okay, thank you. The other one was for Councillor Sorensen. Very disheartened that toxic Roundup. How big of a cost? Because in my line of work, I always tell people, hang on to this toxic stuff. Please don't throw it in the waste. Toxic Roundup is coming. So I think that is very important to us. So if somehow, I don't know what it costs, but that one is very disheartening because it's a need for this community.
Yeah, so they did a spring toxic roundup, and they are still a drop-off center for toxic items. It's just they're not doing the fall toxic roundup event with advertising and promotions.
But they still
there's
will.
still a facility for you to drop off your toxic items.
Okay. I just want clarification on that because that's very important. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have no financial items. Questions from media and public regarding items from this council meeting? No? Well, hope you enjoyed the meeting here today. All right, so can I get a motion, please, that we move in camera for council communication, FOIP Act Section 17(1) and 4F.
Do we have to break this?
If you guys need a break, I don't think you need a break. Councillor Barrow make that motion. All those in favor? Motion carried.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order yet again, and further to our discussion, in camera, there's a motion.
All right. After review of the expression of concern regarding an incident occurring at the August 13th meeting of council, which resulted in a code of conduct complaint, council directs administration to prepare a letter reflecting the closed session deliberations.
I'm sure there is no discussion left. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Just to note, Madam Deputy Mayor, did you vote
I
opposed
voted,
to opposed?
sorry, no, not opposed.
In
with-
favor? Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to put my hand
No
up there.
problem.
So now we'll call the mayor in, shall we?
Yeah, we need to
Or
grab, then
will
we just need to
shut
grab
down?
the mayor.
Okay.
I think the mayor's left.
Did he go? No, that's fine if he's,
Oh,
he-
all right.
you really do have the chair there.
Hey, lucky me.
Deputy
I
Mayor
will now
Wilkinson.
entertain a motion for adjournment. Oh, Councillor Chenard.
I would gladly do that.
There will be no discussion on this, so all in favor?